Hi, Lee Phillips again. Yeah, I'm an attorney. Don't worry about it. I won't shake hands with you. You won't catch anything, okay? What I want to talk about is what we call closely held corporations or LLCs, companies. These are companies that have a very small number, and there's no magic number, but a very small number, relatively speaking, of shareholders. Now, the closely held company is actually listed on a publicly traded exchange. That's usually an over-the-counter type exchange. And they don't trade much stock. They're closely held in that only a limited number of people own stock in them, and it very seldom turns over. And if you have shares in the closely held company, they're usually not very liquid. People are not clamoring to buy them because somebody else has control of the company, and it might not be in your best interest, whatever that control is. So stock, although it is publicly traded, is not really turning over. There's no velocity in the stock turnover. The closely held company is usually controlled by a couple of bigger shareholders, and the little shareholders, your stock's not worth much, even though you can, in theory, publicly trade it. That's different than a privately held company. The privately held company, the stock is not even available for public trading. It could be traded. The membership interest could be traded. If it's a corporation, then by definition, the stock is transferable. If it's an LLC, it may be even restricted as to how it can be transferred or non-transferable. So that's in a private company, and we'll talk about that someday. But the closely held companies are held closely by just a few controlling members. And yes, they are listed on public exchanges, but they're not very tradable unless you really own the company and you work in it and it's yours. They're not worth a lot if you're just trying to invest in them usually. They're not too vulnerable to public takeovers because nobody sells their stock usually. It just sits there and they own it. It's maybe an estate planning issue because the stock isn't tradable when the original owner dies. So think about it before you invest in the closely held corporation or LLC. Now, the mom and pop shop where dad owns 100% of the stock, that's a private company. It's not tradable over any exchange. This is Lee Phillips talking about what's a closely held company.